And she took the car, unbeknownst to Carl, and took it out for a ride, and the world saw it. And she became the first person to drive across the state of Germany in a vehicle. And that vehicle was the patent motor wagon, for time. It's a lot before it becomes Mercedes Benz, but that was, the impetus, if you will. There's a really cool silent black and white movie on it done by Mercedes. If you want to check it out on YouTube, that's where I got some of my information. But it's pretty cool. One other interesting fact about that, we talked about buying the gasoline from the pharmacy. Let's see what it is. The car did not run on gasoline, but it ran on highly volatile petroleum ether, which, of course, she got from her pharmacy. You can't make this stuff up. Let's see. I'm going to run you through a brief timeline of the gas and filling station openings to kind of get us to, basically get us to the good Gulf. Good God Gulf. That place we were just talking about. So, in 1905, the first dedicated gas station is established in St. Louis, Missouri, at 420 South Teresa Avenue. And this is probably why the idea of the first gas station itself is in dispute, because it's semantics. It's all about who had the filling station first, who had a gas station first, who had a drive-in gas station first. In 1907, the first service station is installed by Standard Oil in Seattle, Washington, at what is now Pier 32. And, of course, Standard Oil then goes on to become Chevron. So in 1909, the oldest existing gas station that is still around now goes into business, and that's Reighardt's gas station in Altoona, Pennsylvania. I don't know much about Altoona. I do know that every time I go to see the AA team in my city baseball team play, they're always playing the AA team from Altoona as well. And so it's like I've seen them play like 10 times, and that's my only connection to Altoona, Pennsylvania. Besides, now that I know the oldest gas station in America is also there, still in business now. So let's see. So if we're going to talk, like we talked about gas stations, but we didn't talk about an integral part of gas stations, which is gas pumps. And like I mentioned, gas pumps were not always just a thing. People used to use funnels and all sorts of different things to get their gas, from the whatever receptacle they had into their vehicle or whatever they were trying to fuel up. And so before the dawn of the filling station, hardware stores and general stores stored kerosene in large tanks that would be ladled into customer containers. It was 1885 in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where kerosene gas pump inventor S.F. Bowser sold his newly invented kerosene pump to the owner of a grocery shop. This is the first time we see there being some sort of actual pump system to get the gas from, like I said, from its receptacle into whatever the customer's container. This solved the messy problem of a storekeeper ladling flammable liquid into whatever random container the customer brought in, which, it sounds like a problem. At that time, kerosene was used to fuel stoves and lamps, and gasoline was simply a volatile byproduct of refined kerosene. So the Bowser guys who made the pump, but then the actual dispenser, which I assume is closer to the nozzle, was made by a Norwegian guy named Tokhem. I can get his whole name here for a second. What is it? John J. Jingleheimer. No, John J. Tokhem is what they said his name was. And he's the guy who actually created the idea for the dispenser in 1901. And that is, you get the pump and the dispenser together, and that's what makes a gas pump or the great grandfather of the gas pump that you're using every day. All right, and so one more piece of the gas station that I had to talk about and bring up, and then we'll pretty much be done with the whole idea of how gas stations happened. But it is the underground tank system that is basically the way most tanks or the way most gas stations are created these days. You don't see or know where the gas comes from. I remember when I was a kid and my dad told me, he was like, yeah, they're all in tanks underground. I was like, you're lying. No way. Who does that? You know what I mean? You mean to tell me all the gas that they're pumping up here all day long is coming from tanks right beneath us right now? Like, the whole thing was just a little much for me to like really take in. And so I wonder if anybody else feels the same way. But so I looked up some videos on it, and it wasn't as, not gonna lie, it wasn't as mind-blowing as I thought it was gonna be, but that sounds more like my problem. But it was just they have huge tanks under the asphalt, and they have to, what I didn't know is that it makes pressure while, like, the pumping of the gas, which I guess makes sense, so they have to relieve the pressure every time they put more gas in. You can't put more gas in until you take the pressure from the previous gas out. And that is how gas stations happened. And now it's time for the roundup. And we're going to round it up. Before filling stations, customers bought their gas needs at places like pharmacies, blacksmiths, and general stores. The first gas station is up for dispute, but they began to open up between 1905 and 1913. The gas pump was developed independently and really came about as a necessity for safety. Things I didn't know before, and now I know them. Never heard of these things. What are they? All right. See, I got two for you today on the things I didn't know before. The first one I'll jump right into. So, in some parts of Canada, gas stations are called gas bars, which makes the idea of getting gas sound so much more fun. If you're going to a gas bar, like I said, it's some stuff like those and the Japanese and their gasoline stands. I'm telling you, when I first heard that in my head and then said it out loud, it sounded like the cleanest thing I'd ever heard. A gasoline stand. I was like, why don't we have those here? Then I was like, oh, we do have those here. They're just called gas stations. Here we go. So the second one is not so much it is a thing I didn't know, but I watched a video on YouTube about the biggest gas station in the world, and it pays off. I tell you what, it pays off. It was it's the Buc-ee's. It's the gas station. It's called Buc-ee's. It's not a truck stop. It's actually a gas station, and that's something that I thought was worth noting when I looked at it, because you would think the biggest gas station in the world would be a truck stop, because up until this video, the biggest ones I'd ever seen were truck stops, and the biggest ones I'd ever been to also were truck stops. And I love going to those things. You go in there and like the bathrooms have showers and stuff, and you can buy like belt buckles and like shirts and stuff and like everything but this is like, but they went into Buc-ee's. I'd heard of Buc-ee's, but never really knew what Buc-ee's was. I have family in Texas, and so I think I've heard of this before. I watch enough TV, but to really see what it was interesting. It was like, it's to paint it. It's like Walmart. It's like if Walmart and Wawa had a baby. Yeah, it's like if Walmart and Wawa had a baby, and that baby was a beaver that gave you the biggest gas station in the world. That's what Buc-ee's is. So I encourage you to go watch that video. It's by this couple who were doing life in a Sprinter van or whatever. Which I'm just saying, after that Gabby Pepito stuff, anytime I see a white chick in a Sprinter van, I'm just like, Lord help her, because that your boyfriend is just one hiking trail away from just losing it all, I guess. But that's a whole different podcast. Thanks for coming by this week, guys, and learning how gas stations happened. Always a good time. We'll see you guys next week. And if you could find it in your heart, deep, deep, deep down in there, give me 5 stars. See you guys next week.